Welcome to the Academic Carnival. My name is Dr. Ryan Arthur. This workshop will explore criticality in academic writing. There are two learning objectives for this session, the first of which is to identify the nature of criticality in your academic writing, and the second objective is to develop a critical thesis. Now we shall define what is critical writing. Critical writing is engaging in academic debates, getting involved, being on the front line, not sitting on the sidelines, not sitting on the fence, but being an active participant. What is critical writing? There are two questions we can ask to really understand the nature of critical writing. The first of which, is it a negative activity? No, not always. Critical writing, its essence is evaluation. When you evaluate something, sometimes you put positive points across, and sometimes you put negative points across. It depends on the intent of the writer. Second question, what is the opposite of critical analysis? Who is the arch enemy of critical analysis? Yes, you guessed it, descriptive writing. We will find out what is descriptive writing in the next slide. Descriptive writing is a clear description of people, places, objects, and events. Descriptive writing is you describe what's apparent to you, you describe what is in front of you, you describe what is clearly observable. Descriptive writing is largely non-debatable. There are 22 people in this room. It is not debatable. There are not 24, there are not 22, there are 23 people in this room. So the language is confident. When you write in a descriptive tone, you write in a very confident manner. On the other hand, critical writing, you look for a deeper meaning. You make explicit what is not apparent to you or what is not apparent to everybody else. And thus the language is debatable. This may be the case, this might not be the case, this could be the case. The language is cautious because you may be right or wrong. So, descriptive writer will say there are 22 people in this class. A critical writer may try to find out the reasons that people attended the class. So this takes analysis, which is in essence cautious. I have a very short quiz here. There are a number of scenarios, and I want you to assert whether they are critical or descriptive. Descriptive, critical, descriptive, critical, descriptive, critical, critical, critical. I have another question. There are two paragraphs, one of which is critical and the other is descriptive. Can you determine which one is critical and which one is descriptive? Yes, you guessed it. Paragraph A is descriptive because they are observing what is in front of them and the language is also very confident. Paragraph B, on the other hand, the language is cautious, they interact with theory, and they try to look for a deeper meaning. I have two more paragraphs, which is critical, which is descriptive. Yes, you guessed it. Both of them are descriptive because they merely tell you what is apparent. Even though they have references within them, you still need references for descriptive writing. Writing a critical thesis. There are three main parts to your assignment. Whether you're writing an essay, a case study, a blog, there are three main parts. The first of which is the introduction. This is followed by the main body, and it ends with a conclusion. What is an introduction? An introduction is a map to your whole assignment. Just by reading this opening paragraph, I should have an understanding of your entire essay, of your entire assignment. The introduction tells me what you are about to do and how you will do it. However, a critical thesis uses the introduction to set the critical tone. We will talk now of how to tweak the introduction to set that critical tone, to turn your work into a critical piece of work. There are four crucial elements of a critical introduction. The first element is a brief introduction to the topic of your essay. These should be the first few sentences of your paragraph, and they introduce the reader to the essay. Rather than jump in straight away, you at first introduce the reader with a few sentences to bring them into your world. This is followed by state your thesis, state the aim of your essay. This is very, very important. This is why I highlighted it in red. Outline your essay and why. The first area will do this, the second area will do this, the third area will do this, and state the reasons why you are covering those areas. The fourth element is state the significance of your essay. We will go through each of these four crucial elements in much more detail. Beginning with the first element, a brief introduction to the subject. When you start writing this opening paragraph, these first few sentences, imagine that the person marking your work is ignorant of the subject, so you have to walk them in gently. You can do this by introducing a problem. Here are two examples. The NHS insurance system is under significant strain due to increased expenditure and an aging population. Just by reading that, I've introduced a problem and I've also welcomed the reader into the subject matter that I am addressing. Another example, childhood obesity is one of the most serious public health challenges of the 21st century. Once again, I've introduced the reader into my topic and I've introduced a problem. Make it as dark and as gloomy as possible. Things are getting worse, the prevalence is increasing, and you bring them into this world. You set the problem. Now that we have welcomed the reader into our world by introducing the problem, we state the aim of our thesis. This is the soul of the introduction. Be very, very specific, and you have to maintain the aim of your work. You have to maintain the thesis throughout. Every paragraph, every syllable, every verb, every noun should be there to support your thesis. No filler. An example of a thesis or an aim of an essay is, this paper will highlight the inconsistencies of the Thatcher government's reform of the public sector. Very direct. Just by reading this, I have an understanding of where this person is going. And how do we get our thesis? How do we get the aim of our essay? We simply reword the essay question. For instance, this could be our essay question. To what extent were the Atlantic revolutions inspired by Enlightenment political ideas? So we rephrase the question to get our thesis. This essay will argue that the Atlantic revolutions were central to the Enlightenment political ideas. So we've rephrased it, we've reframed it, and we've taken ownership of it. This is how we get our thesis. Look at the essay question and look how this reader, look how the student rephrased the question. Let's look at some more examples. This student's essay question was, how are the ideas of race and nation connected in the modern world? And we see how the student rephrased it, reframed it, took ownership of the essay question. This essay will unpack ideologies of race and nation to demonstrate that they had a minimal impact on the modern world. They've reframed it and have given their essay a critical tone. Excellent work. Another essay question that a student received, the word genocide has been so overused, It no longer has any useful meaning. Discuss. If we see here, it's not necessarily an essay question, but it's something that they have to do. And once again, the student has reframed and rephrased the essay question to give their essay a direction. Have a go at creating a critical thesis statement. From your own assignment question, reframe, rephrase, reword it to produce a critical thesis statement. You can produce your ideas in the comment section. The third aspect, outline your work. This is very important. No surprises. The person reading your work has to be aware of all the twists and turns in the introduction. All of the areas that you will cover should be in the introduction. Describe each section in order. The first area will do this, the second section will do this, the third area will do this. And to make it critical, provide a reason for each section. Don't take it for granted that the person reading your work is aware of all of your twists and your turns, of all of your sections. Try to provide a reason, try to provide a rationale for each section. Be very clear and concise with what you do. Here is an example of a non-critical outline of an essay. There's nothing wrong with this per se, but it's very generic and very descriptive. This essay covers 3 areas. The first area will do this. This will be followed by something, and the third area will be followed by another matter. As we can see, very non-critical, very mediocre, very descriptive. We need to turn it up a notch. Now we have a critical outline of an essay. You can see it follows the same format as the first, however, it's strengthened by providing the rationale in purple. This report covers 3 areas. This essay covers 3 areas. The first area, you explain what the area is, and followed by this, you say the why. What purpose is that area serving? Second area, explain what it is. Then in purple, it is explain why this area is important. The third area will cover a case study on a soft drinks industry levy policy. And in purple, it explains why. And we see that relationship. First area, why. Second area, why. Third area, why. And we see the rationale. We see the train of thought. The last aspect of a critical introduction is the significance of your essay. You really have to state the significance of your essay. I know the real significance that you're writing this essay is to get a good mark, but you must look beyond that to the wider world. For example, this student wrote, this essay is significant because it speaks to current affairs, current policy. Perhaps there's something on the horizon, perhaps there's a matter of the political discussion that's taking place right now, and your essay feeds into that, your essay links into that. Another reason, another significance could be that you want to shine a spotlight on an overlooked issue. You want to offer a different perspective. Your essay is significant because it critiques an area that has rarely been critiqued, or is crucial to your professional development. Perhaps you're writing a reflective essay, and through writing that essay, it will help you in your professional development. Or perhaps you're using a particular theory or model to analyze the situation. So it's very unique what you're doing. So this is the significance. Let's see an overview of a critical introduction. We started very generally, very broadly, by giving a brief introduction to the topic of our essay. We became even more specific by stating the aim of this essay. We became even more specific by outlining the essay and explaining why. And ultimately, we ended by establishing the significance of our essay. If you see how we started very general and we became very specific, they call this the funnel approach. Here is an example of all four elements working together in one cohesive paragraph. In red, we have that brief introduction to the topic. In green, we have the thesis statement, the aim of your essay. In purple, we've outlined the essay, explaining what the first, second, and third areas are doing, and we've explained why. What purpose do they serve? And we've ended the paragraph in blue by looking at the significance of this essay. So we can see how these four parts work in tandem with one another to set the critical tone of your critical essay. I have a very brief exercise here. I have two introductions, introduction A and introduction B, and I want you to comment on whether we can class this as a good critical introduction or even as a good introduction. So please read introduction A and write your thoughts in the comment section. Please read introduction B and write your thoughts in the comment section. I believe even though introduction B has significant issues, it is much better than introduction A. But let me know your thoughts. Please write your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Moving on, we have discussed the introduction. Now we will discuss the main body, and this will be followed by a discussion of the conclusion. There are two aspects needed to maintain a critical thesis. First, signposting. Second, tone. We will go through both of these aspects in more detail. Signposting. This is when you inform the reader about what is happening. Here are literal examples of signposting. The following account of the Grenfell tragedy will be discussed to demonstrate the failures of local government. So before this person has introduced the case study, before they have introduced the example, they're showing us the reasons why we should focus on this particular example. Another example, this section will build on the previous section by looking at the implications of discrimination. The student is showing us the connection between the section before and the section that they're currently working on now, and just talking us through the process. This is very, very important. Just a few lines here or there, it really adds clarity to your work. Turning now to the second issue, another significant aspect of, in addition to the central thesis, it is important to ask. This topic can be analyzed from three angles. Just a few sentences at the beginning of the paragraph really clarifies to the person marking your work all of the directions that you're going in, the transitions, the reasons that you're doing this and the reasons that you're doing that. It adds much more clarity. Let's now look at tone. When we are writing critically, we must think about our tone. We must use cautious language because we may or may not be right. Words such as most, some, generally, it is possible that, in most cases, this may indicate, and so on. Also, we must use neutral language. I always say to my students, we must be almost robotic, take a step away from the subject, use words which are not emotive. Huda 2002 is incorrect once again, is not neutral. This is not neutral language. Rather, it should be rephrased. Huda has some shortcomings in this area, or Huda has produced certain inconsistencies in this area, and so on. The present state of the NHS is inexcusable. Even though you may agree with the statement, there's another way to rephrase this so it sounds less emotive. Write your rephrasing in the comment section. No scholar is on the level of Brezant. Once again, rephrase that. It's too certain and the language is not neutral. Also, avoid informal language, idioms and phrases. Over the moon, They Will See the Light, Curiosity Killed the Cat, A Bird in the Hand. His 2010 analysis was to die for. I've seen many examples of students using such language. Please avoid all of these terms. To help with your toll, I recommend that you use the academic Phrasebank. This is the website address. The academic Phrasebank was set up by academics in the University of Manchester, where they scoured through and analysed thousands upon thousands of journal articles, and they extracted some of the common terminology used, some of the sentence structures used by these articles, and they've displayed it on their website for you to use for yourself. I recommend this website for you if English is a second language, if you're not used to writing academically. Great resource, great website. Please engage with it. So we've covered the introduction, the main body, and we'll end now with the conclusion. Now let's look at the conclusion. It is important to re-emphasize your thesis, re-emphasize the aim of your essay. Also, summarize the key points that supported your essay, that supported your thesis. Thirdly, what has been learnt? Have you seen any patterns? Is more research needed? And looking forward now, you've been through this journey. What can this tell us? What can this predict? Are matters still in flux? Is it still very chaotic? Is it difficult to know the future? What can you tell us about the future? Also, it's also good to end on a poetic note. I have here some quotes, just so it doesn't end abruptly, that you end on a poetic note that is relevant to your thesis. In summary, what I hear, I forget. What I do, I understand. How I interpret this Chinese proverb is that much of the stuff I've been through, perhaps you'll forget it. But when you start to implement it, when you start to experiment with it, when you start to play around with it, you would understand it on a deeper level. And much of what I've also discussed in this short presentation is ownership. Ownership goes right to the center of critical analysis, critical thinking, and critical writing. But most importantly, you need to read, and read more. I can't emphasize this enough. Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe.